And now the big elephant in the room, the anti-Semitism charge, which I promised to come back to. The biggest accusation against BDS is that it is anti-Semitic. That, you know, boycotting Israel is somehow a boycott of the Jews. It reminds us of Germany, and all that is brought up. Now, as I've said before, and I'll repeat it here, the statement, the claim that boycott of Israel is anti-Semitic is itself an anti-Semitic statement. And let me explain why. Because it assumes that all Jews and Israel are one and the same. All Jews are one monolithic group that thinks the same, and Israel speaks on behalf of them. And an attack on Israel is an attack on all Jews, because all Jews think alike. Anyone who says all Jews are ... anything is racist and anti-Semite. Anyone. Those who say all Jews are smart are just as racist as those who say all Jews love money. It's just as anti-Semitic to say that, because it dehumanizes Jews as if they're not part of the human species. And I've said it before, Nazis looked at Jews as subhumans, and Zionists look at Jews as superhumans, but they both agree that they're not human. So it is time, if we want to be human rights activists with consistency, where we believe in equal rights for all human beings, irrespective of their identities, we must reject any form of racial discrimination and racism, any form of anti-Semitism, including Zionist anti-Semitism, as I've explained. Not to mention that there's a disproportionate number of Jewish activists in the leadership of the BDS movement in the West. And these are not nutty cases, you know. Many of them very established cultural figures, academics, activists, well respected in their communities. And after the attack on Gaza, we've seen many famous Jewish figures, from Judith Butler, Naomi Klein, and many others around the world. I don't want to leave out any names, who have come out in support of BDS openly, Sarah Schulman, and so on. These are not nutcases. These are not people who are self-hating. These are people who are very rational and very moral, and who have supported BDS as a very morally consistent form of resistance against Israeli apartheid and occupation. And we salute them for that position. And about the anti-Semitism issue, Desmond Tutu said, "I think the West, quite rightly, is feeling contrite, penitent, for its awful connivance with the Holocaust. The penance is being paid by the Palestinians, however," he said. "I just hope again that ordinary citizens in the West will wake up and say, we refuse to be part of this." Most recently, in February, a very ranking Israeli diplomat who used to serve in South Africa and in Europe quit the diplomatic corps in Israel after many years of service. And his reason was that he could no longer represent the policies of the State of Israel. He went on to say, "Identifying the objection expressed by global public opinion to the occupation policy as anti-Semitic is simplistic, provincial, and artificial. Experience shows," he says, "that this global trend won't change until we normalize our relations with the Palestinians." So this is someone from the diplomatic corps in Israel. Going back to Avraham Burg, he also had something to say about this anti-Semitism issue, and I'll end that part with him. Burg said, "Israel sweeps all the criticism against it, both justified and unjustified, under the same anti-Semitic rug. It is actually we, Israelis, who are repeatedly mixing up proper criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. The reason is to avoid at any price having to confront the situation and make tough existential decisions. The occupation, the injustices, the discrimination, the persecution of the non-Jewish minority in our midst, as long as they, the others, are anti-Semites, we feel pure and justified in our own eyes. So far," he says, "this has been enough to go on posturing against the world, based on a paradigm as addictive as it is erroneous, that the whole world is against us. It's a historical, moral, and emotional checking account that is suffering from being overextended and is on the brink of being closed," he says. There's no other country in the Western world from which the international community has been willing to put up with acts of state violence for 5 decades other than Israel. He forgets the US, but we'll forgive him. There's no other country that's permitted by the international community to maintain a vast and supervised nuclear arsenal other than Israel. And there's no other colonialist left in the world other than the only democracy in the Middle East. Those are his quotes, not mine. The world is still putting up with all this, but not for much longer. It will soon be over. End of quote. Abraham Burghouti.